Hello, everybody, and welcome to Carolina Conservatives. We are preachers with a punch, and yes, this has been a little bit of a rare situation here lately, Pastor, that we've been able to get together and actually be the both of us on these podcasts. It's been one or the other here for the last little bit, but folks, here we are. You've got double whammy here today with both Pastor Alan Mashburn and me. I'm Dr. Nathan Street.
I'm Pastor Alan Mashburn. I don't know what you've done to be so blessed, but here you are. And we have special guests today. And I'm going to ask Dr. Street to introduce them. I'll bring in the topic of what we're going to look at and what prompted this.
We are so thrilled to have with us today two very amazing people and who have quite a story to tell. And we can't wait to get this story out so that everybody can see exactly what is happening. You know, there's so much of this stuff that's going on behind the scenes, and the media doesn't really want to cover it. But here on Preachers with a Punch, we don't mind just shining the light on all of it and watching all the roaches run. You know, that's the way it goes when the light comes on, dispels all the darkness. But here today, we are thrilled to have with us Courtney Gills and Mustafa Kojak. And yes, we did mean Kojak, and I just love that last name. It's just awesome. So Courtney Gills and Mustafa Kojak, we just welcome you here on Carolina Conservatives Preachers with a Punch. Thank you so much for coming on with us.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
And let me give a little bit of light on how this came about. Courtney is a former candidate for Congress, and we hope that she is not done, because we need her tenacity, her values, and I think you'll look better in Congress than many that we already have. But nevertheless, what started this was a post, and we're going to put this on the video and have reference in the audio version as well. Due to the significant increase in faith-based exemption requests over the past year, and our imperative to keep our communities, patients, and team members safe, Novant Health has been compelled to thoughtfully assess the sincerity of each requester's beliefs. And Courtney goes on, guess what, folks? They're still doing it. This was sent to me by an experienced RN, included in their denial for their religious exemption. There's no science in keeping others safe. We are losing our bodily autonomy and religious freedom. It's time to wake up, America. So this prompted me to reach out to Courtney. And Courtney, what prompted you to write this?
Well, I actually got that from Mustafa, so he'll probably expound on what his experience was there. But I've been a nurse for about 10 years, mostly emergency room. And actually what prompted me to run for office was the vaccine mandates. Both of my parents are respiratory therapists. They were both forced to take it to keep their jobs. And that was really something that was really the federal government overreach that directly affected my family. And I just couldn't stand for it anymore. And I had a friend who suggested I run for Congress. I thought she was kind of crazy. It was about a week before the mandate started. And then that happened. And I looked at my husband and said, you know, are you really supportive of this? And he was. And we looked into it, and there I was running for Congress, made it through the primary, but not past the general, because I was in probably the most blue district running as a Republican in North Carolina. But we worked really hard and we did some really great things. But what's been just really interesting is talking to Mustafa about his experience. We both have been travel nurses, and just seeing how the type of things that you have to sign, even if you get an exemption, how much liability that puts on the nurse rather than the hospital. It's just been really a mess, and really goes against all of American values of freedom and bodily autonomy. And yeah, it's just very frustrating, because after the Supreme Court overturned the whole OSHA being able to shut down small businesses if they're over, I think it was 100 employees, for not enforcing a vaccine mandate. Once that was overturned, everybody got excited, but us hospital workers didn't get excited, because really the way they've been able to continue to enforce these policies in the hospital is because the Biden administration said they would withdraw Medicaid and Medicare funding from hospitals that didn't enforce vaccine mandates. And so that still is in place, and people are still being walked off the job.
All for something that we are learning more and more about being ineffective entirely. I mean, I just read it this morning and heard it this morning that the Project Veritas has just, really, as of this morning, unveiled Pfizer executive talking about, yeah, we never did test this shot, and yeah, we're actually looking right now to see if it is affecting and making people have heart attacks. All of that, that's coming out and stuff that we've already known, and that they've really silenced people like y'all. And now they're still trying to make you either take this shot, you either comply, or we're going to get rid of you. So my question is, how do they know whether this is a sincere religious belief or not? I mean, how are they really testing this out?
Mustafa, do you want to comment on that?
Well, yeah, sure. The real answer to that is the people who are asking for these faith-based religious exemptions, these aren't people who are actually of faith. These aren't people who believe that we are vessels given the breath of life in our mother's womb and that we're knit together. They don't follow anything about the scriptures from Mesopotamia, what we follow today in our culture. And they're definitely not following what we do as nurses when we have a code of ethics to do no harm and to uphold autonomy, because as nurses and as physicians have that Hippocratical oath. Well, nurses, we follow after Florence Nightingale, who clearly follows after Jesus of Nazareth and the disciples who healed the people and raised the dead. And when she founded nursing, she founded it on those principles to say, hey, when we're taking care of people, we're taking care of them because we want to bring about healing to them. And so in hospitals today, after this COVID compliance thing has occurred, what I experienced was that you just have people that are behind closed doors. You don't know who they are. They don't elicit their name. They won't reveal themselves. You don't even have a primary email address to contact them back with. They just simply say, we are the faith-based committee, or we are the medical-based committee. We received your letter. We deny your reason of faith. So you can't actually speak to them one-on-one, which I've requested. I've said, hey, whoever denied my letter of faith, can you get me in touch with them so I can speak to them about their faith and what it is, why it is allowed for their opinion to supersede who I am as a person, as a living being. And so that's really a wall that I've hit. I don't know if that answers your question or not, but.
So I just want to be clear about this, that there is a board of unnamed people.
Yes.
Unrecognized faces. We don't know who these people are. Don't even know how many there are.
Right.
Hiding behind a computer.
Hiding behind a computer, sitting somewhere in the building, maybe not even in the building, who does not know you at all, who are making these decisions of, well, this is sincerely held belief or not, whether Christian, Muslim, Buddhist, whatever, that they are determining whether your belief is actually sincere or not. Am I correct on that?
Yes, absolutely.
And that they are not allowed to speak to you and you to speak to them.
They're allowed to correspond to me. I do not have autonomy to speak to them. I'm not allowed to speak to them. I've asked because I was curious about this. I've had to fight them, and I'm on the winning side right now. But I had to say to them, like, when I got my second letter from them, it came from an email that was also anonymous, and it had a link that was a dead link. And it simply was just giving me the runaround to ignore me. So I had to call one of the HR representatives and say, look, one of the things that the EEOC, our federal labor commission board, what they say is that when you're a corporation in the United States and you want to offer employment to people, you can't deny them by their creed. And that's what this is doing. And after I did that, I got an approval letter from them, but their approval letter also had stipulations to it that I didn't agree with or that I won't abide by because it goes against who I am. But this is something that's being elicited out of, they just get to stay anonymous. And when I've asked the hiring manager who, this one particular job with Novant, I said, can you get me a hold of these people? He says, I have no way of getting a hold of them. I don't know who they are. And when I've asked the HR representatives, can you get a hold of these people? I need to talk to them about this because this goes against the nurse's code of practice. And they say, well, it's none of your concern.
Huh.
Yeah.
Well, how about that?
Yeah.
One thing, have you seen this happen in any of your careers? Have you seen this happen with any other vaccines?
No, absolutely not. Courtney, if you want to answer.
Yeah, the only thing that they ever put pressure on for you to take is the flu vaccine, which what's really funny about that is the repercussions for if you didn't want to take the flu vaccine before COVID ever happened was you had to wear a mask all the time, which is
Yes.
super funny now because now they're actually making you to sign the same ridiculous declinations for the flu vaccine that they have you sign for the COVID vaccine, which completely puts liability if you ever got or spread COVID or the flu to a patient. They could probably sue you with what they make you sign with the declination because they have you sign saying, I'm aware I can't get COVID or the flu from the vaccine. I'm aware I'm risking the lives of my patients, all the patients in the hospital, and all my friends and family. And with this information, I'm willing to decline, knowing all of this factual science. And it literally will use these slogans like the science says in the declination. So that was never something I ever, I mean, I always took the flu shot just because I didn't want to wear a mask, but it was kind of funny, right? When all of COVID was hitting in the spring of 2020, I kind of made a joke to one of my coworkers. I was like, so what happens if I just like decline the flu vaccine? Now we're already having to wear masks all the time. And I think I took it, which that's a whole nother story. But we also know the flu vaccine, we've been taking those for years and years and years, and they are a little bit edited, but they're not mRNA drug. There's a lot more to that, but it is interesting how they've changed that verbiage, even with the flu vaccine, to match similarly to what the declination for the COVID vaccine is now.
So basically, if you refuse the flu vaccine, according to that declination letter, you could not only open yourself up to a lawsuit, but you could be fired, obviously, because of that. Are there other are there other vaccines required in your job besides this one?
Oh, so that's a very good question. So as a nurse, as a child, I was vaccinated with measles, mumps, and rubella. When you're born, that was a common thing in North America to do. Just like if you grew up in the Philippines, you would be vaccinated with the tuberculosis vaccine. We didn't do that here in North America. But when you work as a nurse, this is pre-COVID, you had the opportunity to deny the flu vaccine. It was just called a declination. Till today, and I'm holding this paper up here, I'll be happy to photocopy it and send it to you, but you see my signature at the bottom. This paper has listed on it vaccines that you are not required to have, and this was told to me by the Office of Healthcare at Novant Health, who does your intake when you're hired as an employee. And it says here that measles, rubella, and mumps, and varicella, which is the chicken pox, are not required vaccines. But it shows here a time frame that if you are exposed to this on your job as a nurse in the hospital, you have to stay out so many days because you need to pass the point of contagion. So I was really surprised by this because not only this, you're also allowed to deny the hepatitis B vaccine. And hepatitis is something that destroys your liver. And you're highly prone to become, what's the word? I'm losing my words. Yeah, infected with hepatitis because you work with bloodborne and fecal-borne bacteria and viruses in the work environment. But this hospital is saying you can decline measles, mumps, and rubella. You can decline varicella if you haven't had the chicken pox, if you want to, and you can decline hepatitis B, but you can't decline the flu and you can't decline the COVID shot. And the problem with that is, the reason I say COVID shot is because the COVID vaccine is not a vaccine. A vaccine is something where you take an attenuated part of a virus and it's active or inactive depending on what kind of vaccine it is, and you put that in a person's body, and their immune system, their natural immune system, disseminates that particle, and it goes into your body, your bloodstream, and then your spleen teaches your blood cells, your white blood cells, how to adjust themselves so that when they see the full version of that virus in your body, they say, okay, here it is, here's the flu, or here's hepatitis, now attack it. And so you'll get sick for a while. Vaccines don't mean that you're not going to get sick. Anyone who's ever gotten the flu shot, if you ask any nurse or doctor, they'll say, man, I never get the flu shot. This is a common thing people talk about before COVID. I never get the flu shot. I just don't need it. But then I got the flu shot and I got sick with the flu. And then the person giving you the flu shot says, well, at least you won't be as sick as long. But really what it was we were opening our immune system up to degradation, because these aren't things that are going to kill us. The flu's not going to kill us, you know. Things like hepatitis can kill you. Measles, mumps, and rubella can kill you. So as medical professionals, we're vaccinated with that. But when it comes to the science of the COVID vaccine, there is no science to show you that beyond natural immunity, it helps you. In fact, the science, and I have all the papers to show this from the CDC and other independent organizations, say that if you are a healthy person and you get COVID and get better, not only are you immune, so you have a natural immunity to this virus significantly longer than someone who's taken the vaccine who has not been infected, but also you are helping your community because you're creating herd immunity. And so you're helping people who have immunocompromised issues with their body from becoming exposed to this virus. But the CDC and the hospital systems that are paid by the current Biden administration, who wrote the policies to say, hey, if you're a hospital and you want to get reimbursed through your Medicaid or your Medicare, you need to enforce this fake drug to the public to create compliance. Otherwise, we won't pay you for being a hospital. And that's why this is getting enforced with the hospital workers today. And it's never happened in the history of medicine before. This is new.
Absolutely, that is exactly right. So I'm curious. There's so many different avenues to take with this, because we've heard that the immunity, our immune systems are designed to build an immunity to diseases like this, and that this shot, this quote unquote vaccine, actually goes to the RNA level to completely change our immune system to fight all of these, to fight the COVID, or to resist COVID, and then leaves us susceptible to other diseases, which may be why flu and RSV are on the rise right now. I'd like to hear you on that. Do you think, maybe speculate a little bit, or use your expertise, your medical expertise? Do you think that because of the COVID shot that we and children have been taking this, that RSV is now on the rise again? Flu is worse than it's been in a long time. And do you think that it has that these young people who are dropping dead, 18 years old, 20 some years old, with heart issues, do you think that it is due to the COVID vaccine?
Well, to answer that, with flu being on the rise and RSV being on the rise, that is a normal yearly occurrence, and it's very normal. You got to understand, viruses are normal, just like bacteria in the world. And there's a normal dynamic where we become infected with viruses and we grow stronger to them. But viruses also, unlike bacteria, viruses aren't alive. They're not living, breathing entities. Bacteria are alive. They grow, they eat, they reproduce, and they move about. Viruses are mechanisms of action. So if you put like the COVID shot in your body because you want to make yourself more immune to COVID, and if you want to do that, that's okay by your choice, by your autonomy. But I haven't seen any science that says, and in my spirit, I don't believe that taking the COVID shot makes you weaker to the flu or to RSV. What I think is that people have become more aware of RSV and the flu, and because of the pandemic mania, they're listening to their television and their news, and they're just watching these headlines on their smartphones, because now people are printing the word RSV, or the flu is getting larger, and they're just creating more of a scare to get people to say, hey, you see, people who don't believe in vaccinations or won't vaccinate themselves are still spreading all these other germs too, because they want to misinform the public to get the people to be afraid of each other, so that we're not human with each other, and then the people that are trying to push this compliance and conformity win. But I have all the evidence that has been written. I have a research paper here from Qatar that was published in 2021 that clearly states that if you get the COVID vaccine and you're a male between the ages of 12 and 22 years old, you have a propensity to develop cardiac issues from that vaccine. And that this same paper says that, hey, if you're a person who's healthy and you have good immunity, if you get sick from COVID and get better, not only are we seeing less hospital stays from people who have natural immunity to COVID, but people who didn't get COVID now and are getting these shots are being hospitalized more, and they have a more propensity to die from COVID. And this is something that's not being shared with the American public. And the CDC is not sharing this with the American public. The CDC is fudging numbers about the COVID vaccine. Anything that you see out of the CDC, it's information, and you want unbiased information. But what the CDC is printing is, if you read the literature, and I'll be happy to send you all the literature I have with the footnotes that you'll be aware for yourself, because you always need to read up. Everyone just hears the word CDC and they go, oh, well, the CDC said. But if you actually read these research reports, they're not saying what the CDC is projecting onto the public. And what the CDC is always saying is that the vaccine is better. But actually what the data shows is that if you're someone who is of the age of 65 and older, and you have a problem with your heart or your lungs or your liver or your immune system, it's shown that if you get the COVID vaccine, it may help you so that when you contract COVID, you won't get as sick. But they take that information and they add it to the entire populace of healthy people. And then they fudge the numbers and they lie. They literally have lied to the public for 2 years now. And they say, well, if you get COVID without the vaccine, you have more of a propensity to get sicker and to be hospitalized or die from it. And that's completely untrue. If that was true, Courtney Gills and I would be dead. The two of you would be dead. Everyone in this world would be dead, because everyone in the world is not like a healthcare worker. You see, they talk about wearing masks. We wear masks in hospitals all the time before COVID, but we knew of a way of touching our mask, taking it off, cleaning our hands. We have these type of PPE, these personal protective equipment that we wear, and ways to take it off and clean our bodies and our extremities so that we don't pass germs. If you go into a Starbucks coffee and you have 10 people standing in a line behind each other, all wearing masks, they're touching their mask, they're touching their phone, they have their hand propped up on the counter while they make their order, they're touching their cup, they're drinking their coffee, they're spreading germs. It's a natural thing for humans to do. Yes. And the CDC is not recognizing this. They just keep telling people, if you put a mask on your face and a shot in your arm, do what we say and comply, and you won't die from this. And it's completely untrue.
And we've seen so many people do that, that they just jumped, they just went ahead and just did whatever someone said to do without asking any questions. Courtney, here's what it comes down to is we're supposed to have bodily autonomy. You know, the left likes to scream, it's my body, get your hands off my body, until it comes down to the shot, where then they want to dictate to everyone what to do with their own body. So have you gotten attorneys? Are you being represented legally at this point?
Courtney, before you answer that, let's take a break. All right, let's come back and deal with that. And then I want to, yeah, we got to have a cliffhanger. And so this wraps up this segment, this episode, and we will be back with the second part with these two. I mean, I'm learning and my blood's boiling at the same time here. Yes. But I want you to be engaged. I want you to listen. So Nathan, take us out and we'll be back.
Folks, if you want to hear the answer to this, we're getting ready to dive even deeper, and we're going to be slapping around some people. So, you know, I'm looking forward to hearing what Courtney and Mustafa have to say next. You do not want to miss this. We are going to be diving deeper. So y'all hang on. This is Carolina Conservatives, Preachers with a Punch. I'm Dr. Nathan Street.
I'm Pastor Alan Mashburn. Join us next time, and you'll get the answer to that cliffhanging question.